You know exactly what you want. You can see it. You can feel it. You've played the whole thing out in your head 1,000 times. The success, the freedom, the version of your life that actually makes you proud. And yet, here you are. Again, watching another video, scrolling through another feed, telling yourself that tomorrow is finally going to be the day you start. But tomorrow showed up, and you did the same thing you did the day before. Let me ask you something, and I need you to be brutally honest with yourself right now. How long has this been going on? Weeks? Months? Be real. Is it years? Because here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud. You're not lazy because you're broken. You're not stuck because you lack talent. You are stuck because your own brain, the very brain that dreams about your future, is actively working against you every single day. And until you understand why that's happening, nothing is going to change. Not your motivation, not your mood, not your circumstances. But here's where it gets interesting. If your brain built this pattern, and it did, then your brain can tear it down too. This video is going to show you exactly how. But I'm warning you right now, some of this is going to sting, because the truth usually does. All right, let's talk about your day. Not the day you planned, the day that actually happened. You woke up this morning with good intentions. Seriously, you did. Somewhere between hitting snooze and opening your eyes, you told yourself, today is different. Today, I actually start. Maybe you even felt a little spark of motivation. That project you've been putting off, that goal that's been sitting in the back of your mind collecting dust. Today was supposed to be the day. And then you picked up your phone. Just for a minute, right? Just to check a couple things. But a couple things turned into a rabbit hole, and before you even got out of bed, 30 minutes were gone. Then an hour. You told yourself you'd start after breakfast. After breakfast, you felt kind of sluggish, so you figured you'd wait until you had more energy. Afternoon rolled around, and suddenly it felt too late to really get going. Might as well just start fresh tomorrow. And tonight? Tonight, you're lying there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, doing that thing where you mentally replay everything you didn't do. Feeling that low-grade guilt that just sits in your chest like a stone. You're making promises to yourself again. Big ones. Tomorrow's going to be different. You've got a plan. But deep down, part of you already knows what's coming. Here's where it gets really uncomfortable, because this isn't just about today. This pattern has been running on a loop for a while now. And the longer it runs, the harder it gets to believe you'll ever actually break it. But here's the thing. This isn't a character flaw. This is psychology, and that changes everything. So let's get into what's really going on, because once you see this clearly, you cannot unsee it. Right now, inside your head, there's a full-blown war happening every single day. And you didn't even start it. One part of you is ambitious as hell. That part sets the goals. That part stays up late watching success stories and thinking, that could be me. That part has a vision so clear it almost feels real. But then there's another part, and this one is sneaky, that wants nothing to do with any of that. This part wants comfort, safety. It wants you to stay exactly where you are, because where you are feels known, and known feels safe. And right now, that second part is winning, not because you're weak, because your brain is literally designed to work this way. Here's the science of it. When you think about sitting down and actually working on your goals, your brain doesn't see opportunity. It sees threat. It sees effort. It sees the very real possibility that you might try and fall flat on your face. And your brain absolutely cannot stand that. So it swoops in with a better offer. Pick up your phone. Watch something. Do literally anything that feels good right now. And the moment you take that exit ramp, your brain drops a little hit of dopamine. You feel relief. The anxiety fades. And your brain files that away. Avoiding your goals equals feeling good. So it's going to keep pushing you toward avoidance every single time. This isn't laziness. This is your brain running its survival programming. It thinks it's protecting you. But here's the brutal truth. While it's saving you from short-term discomfort, It is absolutely robbing you of your long-term life. Every day you avoid, you're not just losing time, you're training yourself to avoid. You're building a habit so deep it starts to feel like personality. And that's where it gets really dangerous. But here's where it also starts to get fixable. Okay, so here's what you're probably telling yourself right now. I just need to get motivated. If I could just find that spark, that fire, I'd be unstoppable. And I get it. That makes total sense on the surface. But I need you to hear this loud and clear. Motivation is not the answer. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are about as reliable as the weather. Some mornings you wake up fired up and ready to conquer the world. Most mornings, you don't. And if you're sitting around waiting to feel motivated before you take action, you are going to be waiting for the rest of your life. Successful people didn't build empires by waiting to feel like it. They built systems. They built structure. They showed up on the days they felt amazing, and more importantly, they showed up on the days they felt like absolute garbage too. Discipline isn't some personality trait you're either born with or you're not. It's a skill. It's a muscle. And just like any muscle, you build it through reps. One small decision at a time, day after day, even when it sucks. But wait, because there's another villain in this story that nobody talks about enough, and it might actually be the biggest thing holding you back right now. Perfectionism. You've got this crystal clear picture in your head of what success is supposed to look like. And because that picture is so vivid, anything less than perfect feels like failure before you even begin. So you wait. You wait for the right moment. You wait until your plan is airtight. You wait until you feel completely ready. And here's the cold truth. That moment is never coming. Ready is never coming. Perfect is never coming. And while you're waiting, life is moving without you. Here's what perfectionism actually is, and brace yourself because this one hits different. Perfectionism is not high standards. Perfectionism is fear wearing a disguise. It is your brain handing you a perfectly reasonable sounding excuse to never start. Because if you never start, you can never fail. If you never put your work out into the world, nobody can tell you it wasn't good enough. It's the ultimate self-protection move, and it is absolutely destroying your future. You know what's worse than doing something imperfectly? Doing nothing perfectly. But here's where it gets really real, because we need to talk about what's underneath all of this. All right, this is the part where I'm going to say the thing you already know but haven't been willing to say out loud yet. You're scared. Not of hard work. Not really. You're scared of finding out the truth about yourself. Because here's the thing, as long as you stay in planning mode, as long as you keep dreaming and imagining and telling yourself you'll start soon, you get to keep the fantasy intact. You get to keep believing that you could do it if you really wanted to, that you would be great if you just applied yourself, that the potential is all there, just waiting to be unlocked. But the moment you actually try, that safety net disappears, because now it's real. Now there's evidence. And what if that evidence says you're not as talented as you thought? What if your idea isn't as brilliant as it seemed in your head? What if you give it everything you've got and it still doesn't work out? That fear is paralyzing, and it makes total sense that your brain wants to protect you from it. But here's what your brain conveniently forgot to tell you. Failure is not the opposite of success. Inaction is. Let that land for a second, because this flips everything. When you fail at something, you walk away with data. You walk away knowing what didn't work, what to adjust, what to try differently next time. Failure is just expensive feedback. But when you do nothing, you get nothing back. No information, no growth, no progress. Just another day gone. Every single person you look up to, every entrepreneur, every athlete, every creator you follow has failed more times than you have even attempted. That's not an exaggeration. That's just how this works. The difference between them and where you are right now isn't talent. It isn't luck. It's that they kept moving after the hits. They took imperfect action. They started before they felt ready, and built momentum through consistency instead of waiting for motivation to show up and save them. You don't need perfect conditions. You need to move. And here's the thing. The moment you take that first real step, something shifts, because now you're someone who acts instead of someone who waits. And that identity change? That's where everything starts. But knowing all this still doesn't answer the big question. How do you actually do it? How do you break out of this cycle when your own brain is fighting you every step of the way? That's exactly what's coming next. All right, this is where we get into the actual how. Because understanding your patterns is one thing, changing them is a whole different game. So let's talk about what breaking this cycle actually looks like in real life. First thing you need to accept, and this is non-negotiable, you are not going to feel like doing it. Not today. Probably not tomorrow either. And waiting until you feel ready is just the cycle dressed up in different clothes. You are going to have to take action anyway.
Especially on the days when every part of you is screaming to just relax and do it later. Here's why that matters so much. Every single time you push through that resistance, every time you sit down and do the work when you absolutely do not feel like it, you are literally rewiring your brain. You're teaching it rep by rep that discomfort is not dangerous, that effort doesn't kill you, that you can do hard things.
And each time you prove that to yourself, the resistance gets a little quieter. Not gone, quieter. That's how the muscle of discipline gets built. But here's where people blow it. They try to change everything at once. They go from 0 to a 5-hour productivity marathon and then burn out by day 3, and use that as proof that they can't do it.
That's not discipline building. That's self-sabotage with good intentions. Start embarrassingly small. Seriously. 15 minutes of focused work. 1 paragraph. 1 email. 1 phone call you've been putting off. Something so small that your brain can't really argue with it.
Because here's the secret. It's not about the 15 minutes. It's about proving to yourself that you showed up, that you made a choice and followed through. That's the data point your brain needs to start building a new story about who you are. Do that tomorrow. Do that the day after. And the day after that. Not perfectly, consistently.
Because consistency is the whole game. Consistency is what turns actions into habits, and habits are what actually build lives. Not motivation, not inspiration, not waiting for the stars to align, just showing up over and over with whatever you've got that day.
And here's something that'll blow your mind once you experience it firsthand. After you push through that resistance a few times, something starts to shift. Your brain begins to adapt. The dread gets smaller. The excuses get quieter. You start to build what feels like actual momentum, and momentum is the closest thing to a superpower that actually exists.
But taking action is only half of it. Because even if your mindset is right, if your environment is working against you, you are fighting uphill every single day. And that's what we need to talk about next.
Here's something that's going to reframe how you think about willpower forever. You're not losing to laziness. You are losing to your environment. And those are 2 completely different problems with 2 completely different solutions. Think about it. Your phone is sitting right next to you. You're going to pick it up. Your desk is covered in clutter and random junk. Your brain is going to feel scattered before you even open a single document. Notifications are firing every few minutes. Your focus is getting chopped into useless little pieces before you can build any real momentum. This is not a you problem. This is a design problem. And the moment you start treating it like one, everything changes. Here's the truth about successful, disciplined people that nobody really talks about. They don't have some superhuman willpower that you were born without. They are not grinding through mountains of temptation on sheer mental strength alone. What they actually have is better systems. They set their lives up so that the default action, the path of least resistance, is the productive one. They removed the exits before the resistance even showed up. So that's exactly what you need to do. Phone goes in another room during work time, not face down on the desk, not on silent next to you, another room. Notifications get turned off. Tabs that have nothing to do with what you're working on get closed. Your workspace gets cleaned up because a clean space genuinely signals to your brain that it's time to focus. You set a specific window of time every single day for deep work, and you protect that window like it is sacred. You tell people not to bother you. You make it harder to get distracted than it is to just stay focused. Every distraction you eliminate is a decision you don't have to make. And every decision you don't have to make is energy you can pour directly into your actual goals. This stuff sounds almost too simple, but simple is not the same as easy, and it works. Now here's the part that might sting a little, and I say this with love. You need to stop consuming so much content about success and productivity and motivation. Yes, including stuff like this. Because here's what your brain has been doing. It's been letting you watch videos and read articles and listen to podcasts and file all of that away as progress. It feels productive. It feels like you're moving forward, but you're not. You're just getting really comfortable in the research phase of a project you haven't started yet. You already know what you need to do. You have known for a while. More information is not what's missing. Execution is what's missing. So when this video ends, and I mean the moment it ends, close it out and go do one thing. Not 5 things, one thing that moves you 1 inch closer to where you want to be. Because here's what nobody warns you about the action-taking phase. Your first attempts are going to be rough, like genuinely not great. And that's not a sign you're doing it wrong. That's actually the most important part of the whole process. Okay, last stretch. And this one ties everything together. Here's a truth that the highlight reels on social media will never show you. Every single thing that exists in this world that you consider great, every book, every business, every piece of art, every career you admire, started out as something rough, unpolished, and honestly kind of embarrassing. Every expert you look up to was once a complete beginner who had absolutely no idea what they were doing. Every masterpiece you've ever been moved by started life as a terrible first draft that the creator almost deleted. Your first attempt at anything is going to be bad. That is not a warning, that is a promise. And it is completely 100% okay. Because right now, you are not trying to be great. You are trying to show up. You are trying to build the identity of someone who does the work instead of someone who thinks about doing the work. Quality is something you develop over time through repetition. But consistency, that has to come first. Always. No exceptions. And listen, when you start taking action, it is not going to be this smooth, cinematic montage of growth and progress. Real talk, it's going to get messy. You're going to have days where you crush it and days where you completely fall apart and slide right back into old patterns. You're going to skip days. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have a bad week and wonder if any of this is even working. That is normal. That is not failure. That is just what the process actually looks like up close. The people who make it through are not the ones who never fall back. They're the ones who refuse to let one bad day become a bad week. They acknowledge the stumble, they shake it off, and they get back on track without turning it into a whole identity crisis. That's the real secret. Not perfection. Just keep coming back. Every single time. And while we're here, stop beating yourself up. Seriously. Lying in bed at night, drowning in guilt and shame is not motivating you. It is making everything worse. Every time you mentally trash yourself for another wasted day, you are digging the hole deeper. Instead, try talking to yourself the way you would talk to someone you actually care about. You had a rough day? Okay. Tomorrow is a new start. You didn't hit your goal? Fine. Do one small thing right now to get back on track. That's it. Forgiveness is not letting yourself off the hook. Forgiveness is giving yourself permission to try again without dragging the weight of every past failure into the next attempt. Confidently, here is what I need you to walk away knowing. You are not a lazy person. Lazy is not your identity. Lazy is a pattern of behavior that your brain got comfortable with because it hadn't learned yet that discomfort leads to growth. Now you know the psychology. Now you see the cycle clearly. And now you have a choice. Ambition without action is just fantasy. Wishing harder will not build the life you want. But discipline without self-compassion burns out fast. You need both. The grit to take action even when you don't feel like it, and the grace to forgive yourself when you fall short. So here's what I want you to do right now. Not tomorrow, not after one more video. Right now. Pick one small thing. Take one step. Prove to your brain that you are serious this time. because that one step is going to start teaching your brain a new story about who you are. You have spent so much time imagining the life you want. You know what it looks like. You know what it feels like. Now it is time to go build it. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect, not when you finally feel ready. Now. One day at a time, one decision at a time, one small action at a time. That is how lives actually change. That is how dreams stop being dreams and start becoming real. And the version of you that does all of that, the version that acts instead of waits, that builds instead of dreams, that gets back up every single time, that version is already in you. Go be that person, starting right now.